Hello, listening squirrels. Oops, I forgot to turn all my lights on back there. Let's get some lights. This is funny because this one is only supposed to control these, but you see it turned those two on. Whatever. Now we have lights and my little flower lights that I was given. And we have cactuses among the snowflakes. And I still have another string of cacti, and the little alpacas somewhere, like there. I want y'all to be able to see all this. I like this setup, but I really liked the brick setup a little bit better because stuff was closer. I could see my sign better and all. Anyway, y'all, I have lost. I just bought these. I have a whole little case of these Gripplies, and I have one. Have to pray to Saint, who is it? Joseph? Y'all tell me. I'll just pray to the Lord. And He'll reveal it to me where I put those things. I'm always hiding stuff from myself. Oh, and no, we don't really do fiber of the day on readings, but hey, I might start. I've shown y'all this before, and it looks a whole lot different when I'm knitting it because I'm putting white in with it too. And the only reason I'm doing that is just to make it a little bit thicker. I'm using this, what I got on at Hobby Lobby on the clearance. It's called Mimosa, and it was $1.49 down from $5.99. And what is it made out of? I want to say it's cotton and something, but yep, 62 cotton, 38 rayon. Because this that I was just showing you in the Hank Wiener formation, I call it, is lace weight. So it's very tiny. And there's 604 yards in this, and the color is authentic. Isn't it beautiful? I was thinking about putting 2 strands of this together, but I really wanted to stretch it as far as I could. So this is that 1 row lace repeat. And it's going to be a wrap. Everything's going to be a wrap, a rectangular wrap. Gotta find these. The problem that I was having the other day was, and it showed it on the pack using 2 of these. 1 on each index finger. So that would make a lot more sense. But now I gotta find them. Okay, we're on chapter 9 of The Murder at the Vicarage. I want to say Vicary. After leaving a message at the police station, the chief constable announced his intention of paying a visit to Miss Marple. Yay, we need more Miss Marple. You'd better come with me, Vicar, he said. I don't want to give a member of your flock hysterics, so lend the weight of your soothing presence. I smiled. For all her fragile appearance, Miss Marple is capable of holding her own with any... Look fragile. With any policeman or chief constable in existence. What's she like? Asked the colonel as we rang the bell. Anything she says to be depended upon or otherwise? I considered the matter. I think she's quite dependable, I said cautiously. That is, insofar as she is talking of what she has actually seen. Beyond that, of course, when you get on to what she thinks, well, that's another matter. She has a powerful imagination and systematically thinks the worst of everyone. The typical elderly spinster, in fact, said Melchett with a laugh. Well, I ought to know the breed by now. Gad, the tea party's down here. We were admitted by a very diminutive maid and shown into a small drawing room. A bit crowded, said Colonel Melchett, looking round, but plenty of good stuff. A ladies' room, eh, Clement? I agreed, and at that moment the door opened and Miss Marple made her appearance. Very sorry to bother you, Miss Marple, said the colonel when I had introduced him, putting on his bluff military manner, which he had an idea was attractive to elderly ladies. Got to do my duty, you know. Of course, said Miss Marple. I quite understand. Won't you sit down? And might I offer you a little glass of cherry brandy, my own making, a recipe of my grandmother's? Thank you very much, Miss Marple. Very kind of you, but I think I won't. Nothing till lunchtime. That's my motto. Now I want to talk to you about this sad business. Very sad business indeed. Upset us all, I'm sure. Well, it seems possible that owing to the position of your house and garden, you may have been able to have been able to tell us something we want to know about yesterday's evening. As a matter of fact, I was in my little garden from 5 o'clock onwards yesterday, and of course from there, well, one simply cannot help seeing anything that is going on next door. I understand, Miss Marple, that Mrs. Prothero passed this way yesterday evening. Yes, she did. I called out to her and she admired my roses. Could you tell us about what time that was? I should say it was just a minute or two after 6:15. Yes, that's right. The church clock had just chimed the quarter. Very good. What happened next? Well, Mrs. Prothero said she was calling for her husband at the vicarage so they could go home together. She had come along the lane, you understand, and she went into the vicarage by the back gate and across the garden. She came from the lane? Yes, I'll show you. Full of eagerness, Miss Marple led us out into the garden and pointed out the lane that ran along by the bottom of the garden. The path opposite with the stile leads to the house, she explained. This was the way they were going home together. Mrs. Prothero came from the village. Perfectly, said Colonel Melchett. She went across to the vicarage, you say? And she went across. Yes, I saw her turn the corner of the house. I suppose the colonel wasn't there yet because she came back almost immediately and went down the lane to the studio, that building there, the one the vicar lets Mr. Redding use as a studio. I see. And you didn't hear a shot, Miss Marple? I didn't hear a shot then, said Miss Marple. But you did hear one sometime? Yes, I think there was a shot somewhere in the woods, but quite 5 or 10 minutes afterwards, and as I say, out in the woods, at least I think so. It couldn't have been, surely it couldn't have been. She stopped, pale with excitement. Yes, we'll come to that presently, said Colonel Melchett. Please go on with your story, Miss Prothero went down to the studio. That's a question. Went down to the studio. And here's another map. Plan C. Can you see it all right? We can always go back to it if we need to. I think I'll bookmark it just so we can find it if we need to. Here's all the different houses. The vicarage, Miss Marple's, Dr. Haydock, and Miss Marple's house, and so on and so forth. Yes, she went inside and waited. Presently, Mr. Redding came along from came along the lane from the village. He came to the vicarage gate, looked all around, and saw you, Miss Marple. As a matter of fact, he didn't see me," said Miss Marple, flushing slightly, "because you see, just at that minute I was bending right over trying to get up one of those nasty dandelions, you know, so difficult, and then he went through the gate and down to the studio." "He didn't go near the house?" "Oh, no, he went straight to the studio. Mrs. Prothero came to the door to meet him, and then they both went inside." Here Miss Marple contributed a singularly eloquent pause. "Perhaps she was sitting for him?" I suggested. "Perhaps," said Miss Marple. "And they came out when?" "About 10 minutes later." That was roughly. The church clock had chimed the half hour. They strolled out through the garden gate strolled out along the garden gate and along the lane, and just at that minute Dr. Stone came down the path leading to the hall and climbed over the stile and joined them. They all walked towards the village together. At the end of the lane, I think, but I can't be quite sure, they were joined by Miss Cram. I think it must have been Miss Cram because her skirts were so short. "You must have very good eyesight, Miss Marple, if you can observe as far as that." "I was observing a bird," said Miss Marple, "a golden-crested wren, I think he was, a sweet little fellow. I had my glasses out, and that's how I happened to see Miss Cram, if it is Miss Cram, and I think so, joined them." "Ah, well, that may be so," said Colonel Melchett. "Now, since you seem very good at observing, did you happen to notice, Miss Marple, what sort of expression Mrs. Prothero and Mr. Redding had as they paused along the lane?" "They were smiling and talking," said Miss Marple. "They seemed very happy to be together, if you know what I mean. They didn't seem upset or disturbed in any manner or in any way." "Oh, no, just the opposite." "Deuced odd," said the Colonel. "There's something deuced odd about the whole thing." Miss Marple suddenly took our breath away by remarking in a placid voice, "Has Mrs. Prothero been saying that she committed the crime now?" "Upon my soul," said Colonel, "how did you come to guess that, Miss Marple?" "Well, I rather thought it might happen," said Miss Marple. "I think dear Lettuce thought so too. She's really a very sharp girl, not always very scrupulous, I'm afraid. So Anne Prothero says she killed her husband. Well, I don't think that's true. No, it must be. Let's see, hang on. I don't think it's true. No, I'm almost sure it isn't true. Not with a woman like Anne Prothero, although one never can be quite sure about anyone, can one? At least that's what I found. When does she say she shot him?" "At 20 minutes past 6, just after speaking to you." Miss Marple shook her head slowly and pityingly. The pity was, I think, for two full-grown men being so foolish as to believe such a story. At least that's what we felt like. "What did she shoot him with?" "Pistol." Where did she find it?" "She brought it with her." "Well, that she didn't do," said Miss Marple with an unexpected decision. "I can swear to that. She'd no such thing with her." "She mightn't have seen it." "Of course I should have seen it. If it had been in her handbag." "She wasn't carrying a handbag." "Well, it might have been concealed upon her person." Miss Marple directed a glance of sorrow and scorn upon him. "My dear Colonel Melchett, you know what young women are nowadays, not ashamed to show exactly how the tender Creator made them. She hadn't so much as a handkerchief in the top of her stocking?" "No, that's not a question." She hadn't so much as a handkerchief in the top of her stocking. Melchett was obstinate. "You must admit that it all fits in," he said. "The time, the overturned clock pointing to 6:22. Miss Marple turned on me. "Do you mean you haven't told him about that clock yet?" "What about the clock, Clement?" "I told him." He showed a good deal of annoyance. "Why on earth didn't you tell Slack this last night?" "Because," I said, "he wouldn't let me." "Nonsense, you ought to have insisted." "Probably," I said, "Inspector Slack behaves quite differently to you than he does to me." I had no earthly chance of insisting. "It's an extraordinary business altogether," said Melchett. "If a third person comes along and claims to have done this murder, I shall go into a lunatic asylum." "If I might be allowed to suggest," murmured Miss Marple. "Well?" "If you were to tell Mr. Redding what Prothero has done, and then explain that you don't really believe it's her, and then if you were able to go to Mrs. Prothero and tell her that Mr. Redding is all right, why then they might each of them tell you the story. And the truth is helpful, though. I dare say they don't know very much themselves, poor things. It's all very well, but they are the only two people who had a motive for making away with Prothero." "Oh, I wouldn't say that, Colonel Melchett," said Miss Marple. "Why, can you think of anyone else?" "Oh, yes, indeed. Why," she counted on her fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes, and a possible 7. I can think of at least 7 people who might be very glad to have Colonel Prothero out of the way." The Colonel looked at her feebly. 7 people in St. Mary? Miss Marple nodded brightly. Mind you, I name no names," she said. "That wouldn't be right, but I'm afraid there's a lot of wickedness in the world. A nice, honorable, upright soldier like you doesn't seem to know about these things, Colonel Melchett." I thought the chief constable was going to have apoplexy. And that's it for chapter 9. Apoplexy. Let's see what that is. Have a fit. Tell me how to pronounce it. Apoplexy. Unconsciousness or incapability resulting from a cerebral hemorrhage or stroke. He was about to have stroke. That's what Mom always used to say. Well, my goodness. Okay, tomorrow we'll be at chapter 10. Hope you're enjoying. I think most of you are. Have a blessed, have a blessed day. But have a blessed day. And be sweet, don't be ugly, and do lots of creative stuff. That is just so beautiful, isn't it? Expression Fiber Arts, which is in Charlotte, just about 45 minutes away. I so wish you had Chandy, a brick and mortar store. Look at that. Authentic. And the alpaca silk lace base. And again, this is, I'm partway through a row there. I had just started another row, and then they called me to have my B12 shot the other day, but there we go. Sweet. If I could just stay on one thing and make headway instead of going to this and that and this and that. I'm crazy. And I want to stop everything and make another hat. Like Oh, that's the cow. Well, that's the cow that went with the hat. I have a set. Then the other day when I wore it, I doubled it. Doubled it up so it would come closer to my, be up closer around my neck. I wish I had just made it that width and then made it longer. Oh well, I could frog it and fix it, but I doubt I will. Okie dokie. Found some more crystal cakes today at Michael's. 2 more colors, but it's not, I want that beautiful. I think it's Merlot. It's a gorgeous red, the crystal cake. Can't find it. They're always out of stock. I don't know that they'll get it back. Okie dokie. See y'all later. Love you bunches.